Hi, Nina. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to have a chat with you. This is Nina from Mind Body Nina. And do you just want to introduce yourself to our listeners and a little bit about like what led you to this work as a coach and a guide and a healer?
Yes. Hello, hello. My name is Nina. On Instagram, my name's Mind Body Nina. But I have been a coach for a few years now. Before that, I started off in the therapy mental health space. I went to school for psychology and social work. And while I was in grad school, actually, I really wanted to find a space to just like spill everything that I was so excited and passionate about, like the nervous system, and actually integrating that deeply into mental health and therapy sessions because I felt like it wasn't really being too integrated where I was going to school. And I was a little disappointed because I thought we were going to learn about that stuff in my classes. And we did learn about it a little bit. We dabbled a little bit, but I was so excited about it. So I just used social media as a space to go express all the things that I was learning and as a place to just be my little hub for that. And from that space, I never ever expected it, but it turned into me starting a coaching business from there. And then the coaching business grew, my page grew, and this has now become my full time work. So, coaching 101 and my community called Humans Unplugged, where, we get to do this in community, in groups with people. And it's, nervous system healing. It's also personal development, being able to focus on both like the deep healing and also just learning for the sake of learning just because you want to grow as a person. I really like those tied together. And I think that work is really fun and fun to do with other people because a lot of the time we try to do it alone.
I love that, and that you've got a community and a space. And I actually first came across your page. We were just chatting a little bit beforehand. You've got a video saying, "Hi, it's me, the present moment," and I've like absolutely created a spin-off series from that where you actually use humor and personify these concepts to get the message across in like a playful kind of humorous way. Can you tell us like a little bit about your creative process and then how that humor and that honesty really play a role in your healing work? Like, what's the other one? You're like, I'm a healing girly, and then it's like all of a sudden grounding is like not something natural that you do, but yeah.
Yeah. I think it really is just a reflection of how I've processed things in my own life. I think humor and being able to laugh about things was the way I coped with a lot of stress in my life. And there's two sides of the same coin, right? There's like the laughing about things actually can be really helpful and it can create this lightness in your body of knowing that everything doesn't have to be so serious or so heavy. And at the same time, it can be a way of not fully tuning into the deeper feelings because they're too hard. And so
Mm.
I think being able to truly process things and then laugh about it later is awesome. I mean, laugh while you're in the mess too. But
Yeah.
being able to laugh about it because you've worked through it, I think is really such a sign of like empowerment and truly getting through something, because when we're still in it we can just be so triggered and all of these things can come up and we talk about things with like this like yap in our voice. I've never used that word in that context.
It works.
Like this, when you're speaking kind of passive aggressively, like you're talking about something and you can feel like the anger coming through your voice because it hasn't been truly dealt with. But in my content creation process or just any creative process, tying all those things together, like this is how I actually feel, this is how I see life, this is how the part of me who has worked through it sees it, and this is the part of me that has no idea what the hell is going on and just wants to laugh about all of it. All of those parts come together, and yeah, I think there was no intention of bringing those all together. It just kind of happened because that's been my life.
Mm. So true though, like there are so many different parts to ourselves that get to be expressed in that way, and people really do relate to it. It like has that lightness to it, but then as you said, on the other side of the coin, For me, on reflection, like from my younger years when I was still dealing with stuff, like I was always the funny girl, and I didn't realize I was being the funny girl because I was trying to like laugh it off and not actually deal with my shit that was
Mhm.
actually trapped in my body and turning into physical dis-ease. So,
Yeah.
oh, there we go again. I think about it, maybe we've still got some processing to do.
We've
No.
been having this whole call before we even started recording. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very similar sense of humor. I love it.
but
But also,
yeah,
yeah, you've actually gone through quite a serious journey at the moment and still very much in it and facing some really difficult things with your thyroid cancer. And if you're open to chatting a little bit about that and maybe like one of your biggest realizations or gifts from that experience and your learnings along the way, because that's really huge.
yeah, yeah. I love sharing about it because it can be a little bit of an isolating experience. Um, and every time I do get to share about it, I also learn more. And I know that other people can have these perspective shifts and they can take a piece of it and apply it to some aspect of their lives because we're all kind of having the same experiences at the core, even if we're
Mhm.
going through different things on the surface. But yeah, you asked one of the gifts or like life lessons that I've taken from it. And I think one of the first things that comes to mind, because there's so many things, but I think one of the first things is just having this commitment to the things that you actually want and the things that you actually care about, even if you've buried them really deeply because you were convinced that they were just a fantasy or that they were you asking for too much from life or they were you trying to get something that is typically taboo or shamed or not considered, real life,
Mm.
whatever reasons we have for why we don't fully connect with those things that we truly want. And I'm not talking about like, I really want to like leave my whole family and everyone and go live on an iceberg by myself because I hate the world and blah blah blah. Maybe you do actually feel like that.
Yeah.
But I mean the deeper thing, maybe the deeper thing there is like I really want true connection. Like I really, really want to meet people who see me and hear me and relate to me and who when I'm in a conversation with them or I'm just in the same room as them, I know I feel safe and like I don't have to be anyone else. Maybe that's the true desire underneath that. And I think doing the work to become aware of those things that we really want and really need too, because it's not always just a want. Sometimes those things truly, truly, truly are what is the most important for us to be well, but being aware of those things and doing the work to chip away at whatever layers are hiding us from accessing those or preventing us from accessing those things, I think that is the life's work. Like, that is, to me, what I want to spend my life focusing on and doing is just like being connected to what feels real for me and not in
Mm.
this meticulous like drawn out strategic way necessarily, not that we, strategy has its own place, but
Mm.
it doesn't have to be in this like now I have to become this person who does this and I have to have the identity of being somebody who's true to myself. And no. We're all gonna
Defeats
go
the
through
purpose.
that. What'd you say?
Kind of defeats the purpose then.
Yeah,
Seeking
yeah,
this. Yeah.
exactly. And we're all going to go through that of like this back and forth of, all right, I'm trying to do it, but now I'm trying to do the thing so much that I'm not really doing the thing. I'm just creating an identity around doing the thing. And then going back to, no, this is what I really want. And like, I don't care about how I come off or what identity could be formed around this or what this means about me, but truly doing it anyway. And when I say I don't care, I don't mean that we're not going to feel those things regardless, but we're not focused on trying to survive everything through control and trying to
Mm.
understand every single little thing. So to me, that's the most exciting work. And it's also been the most challenging thing ever. like truly ever. And I think that's the whole point.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think you explained that really well because when I first started like the healing journey, the wellness journey, it was like a constant trying or doing that was actually quite external. But at the end of the day, like it really is, it's an inside job. It's all internal and peeling back of the layers that you don't necessarily want to face. You just want to get rid of. It's like, well, the way to dissolve them is to face them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not always easy, and it can lead you down a pathway of things that you thought you'd healed like 10 years ago, and then you're like, oh, that's been a bit of a block to actually get to the thing of what my true desires are, of the life that I truly want to live. So I can very much relate to that aspect of it.
Yeah. And it's hard because first, even just getting to the first part of acknowledging that there are things that you want deep down that you might have buried when you were 6 years old, or maybe 17 years old, or it could have been last year, even just getting to that and seeing it is its own journey, let
Mm-hmm.
alone then the process of can I let myself, can I give myself permission to take action with that? Because taking action usually means you have to give a lot of things up. Like, I have to give up the identity that I have now. I might have to give up certain relationships. I might have to give up everything that's comfortable for me, everything that I have built my life around. Like, these things are really, really hard, really, really hard. But at the end of the day, it's like, is or do we think that we're worth going through that journey for? Do we actually truly trust that our existence on this earth in this life, maybe we live one life, maybe we live multiple, I don't really know, but do we trust that doing those things is going to be worth it, and that it actually will free us on a mental, emotional, physical level, and that it's not just like this silly little dream or silly little desire that we have.
It's so much bigger than that too, than just
Mm.
like this little dream. But like as you said, with the those versions of ourselves, like this, trying to get there, like to that 6 year old or to that 17-year old, those parts of us might not even trust us yet in order to get there. So like the journey begins before the journey begins.
Yes,
And I think,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
the parts of you that don't trust that at all. They're like, no, 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 that's going to ruin your whole life. I'm going to make sure that you never even think about that ever again. Shut that
it's like,
out. Like, yeah.
we're safe here, we're good, we're comfortable.
Yeah, this is good enough. Don't leave this place.
And I
Yeah.
think alongside doing all this work, that's when nervous system regulation comes in. And I can't remember if we were talking when it was recording or not, but how that's a real foundation of what you're doing now, what I'm doing, in more of a parenting and early childhood teacher context. But what would a few grounding tools for those type of listeners, for our parents and our teachers, what kind of tools or tips would you have for them to really start like kind of integrating that into their daily lives, some kind of like practical tools?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Practical tools is definitely its own genre because I
Mm,
like to be extreme and be like, the practical tools are nice, but if you don't actually resolve the biggest things keeping you stressed in your life, then the practical tools
mm,
don't work very well. But since you asked for practical tools, I give some practical tools. But my favorite one is honestly literally just barefoot on the ground,
mm.
grounding. You know, like I know you saw that video where I made fun of
Seriously.
grounding, but it's seriously to me, and I think different things will really stick with different people and in different times of your life. But for me, like taking off my shoes and being able to feel the ground with my skin and my feet is such an immediate shift in my state,
Mm,
because all of a sudden I don't feel like I have these little uh like claustrophobic boxes hovering around my foot, I can actually connect with this thing that is real, that is the earth. And there's no separation between me and that thing. It's just, we're here, we're together. And even though a shoe is only, like an inch and a half maybe of space between you and the earth, that little tiny bit of space is that felt disconnection between us and the earth. Especially, if you're wearing barefoot shoes, or you're wearing something that's like a material that isn't so synthetic, then you might feel a little bit different. And I think there's little nuances there, but being able to feel what's really underneath, I think, is really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love the way you started that question, because literally whenever I have someone come into my world, I'm like, okay, so how are you caring for yourself? Like, how are you looking within first? Okay, like what triggers might you have from your childhood before I even actually go into anything practical with this is what you do with your child when they have XYZ behavior. It's like, no, let's just like start peeling these things back first, because it's all very well to be like, okay, well, during a tantrum or during when you're feeling in this fight or flight, if you just tell them to go and punch a pillow instead, then okay, yeah, helpful. But also, like, why are you getting so triggered by their emotions? Okay, what's underneath that? So yeah, really good point starting there.
100%. And I think, yeah, understanding all those little aspects of people and all of these little things is such a special thing, especially because in the world of social media, especially, being prescribed one thing for everyone is kind of the norm. It's become very accepted of like, oh, you do this when this happens, and you should try this when you're feeling like this. And it's okay to have those general broad frameworks for things, but at the same time, every person literally is in a different environment with a different body. We're all the same, but we're all different. And we have our own unique body and our own unique environment with our own unique histories, and our bodies might be holding things differently. And so being able to understand like a few little details about people before we even dive into here's what we do
Yeah.
is it's huge, especially today, like especially now. Um, but another grounding technique I love is getting your environment to be really pleasant to each one of your senses. So sometimes when I've had a long day, I put on my oil diffuser. It's my favorite scent. So usually I'll do like sandalwood, and I'll mix it with something else, whatever I'm feeling that day. So I have my oil diffuser for the scent, and then I will put on my favorite little slippers for the sensation, physical touch. And then I will have like a cacao or some type of drink that I love for the taste. And yep, you got yours. And a little bit of music for sound. Did I miss any? I'm like trying to remember the five senses.
See, what can you see?
Oh yeah, and like going outside, or even just like sometimes I have a pool as my view, which is sometimes nice, sometimes kind of robotic. It's just like a lonely pool, nobody's ever there. But in my apartment building, but sometimes I'll go like put my feet by the water and just like look at the water and those kinds of things. Or I don't, unfortunately, I don't live by nature to just like walk outside and be with nature. One day I will be back in nature, but just look at something that's pleasant for you or something that is enjoyable for you.
And funnily enough, I say, well, when we do get to the tools, that's one game that I suggest to play with the children. So it's like, what's one thing you can see, smell,
Mm-hmm.
touch, feel, hear, and if they are in a state where they're able to kind of come back down, it's like that's grounding them back into their body, just into the now. And not only for children, but obviously like for adults as well. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good one. It's so simple. It's
Mm,
such a simple thing, but it's such a good one because even if you just think about it, we evolved in environments where we were always having to look for things. Like if you want to look for your food or you want to look for, I don't know, predators, like you're having to scan through natural terrain in order to find things that are really important, like food or predators. Like you have to look for things. And naturally, like you're looking out into nature. Before we weren't looking, like at a screen or in these four walls. So there's that. And then there's like literally evolving and growing with the sounds of the leaves and the trees and the branches and whatever else is in your environment. And these things are just so removed a lot of the time from our environments because we're inside, and inside it's quiet. You hear air conditioning and there's no severe temperature changes if you're fortunate enough to be able to be in a place where you get to control your temperature all the time, and you're just in such a little box of controlled stimulation. So
mm,
all of these things were so removed from them. And so it makes sense why doing things just like smelling something, hearing something, and like actually tuning into those senses, it makes sense why they can be so grounding because it's just such a fundamental part of being a living creature. We're just so kind of disconnected from it.
mm. And that's like a huge part of, I guess, what you do and what I do is that connection piece. It's like connecting it back to within, but also to your environment. And if your environment isn't of the ideal for our innate nature, um, yeah, then there's extra work to do. There really is.
Yeah.
We're very, very, very fortunate to have nature on our doorstep. So, reminder for gratitude for that and to utilize it as much as possible. Like when I first kind of started into my parenting journey, literally, without even realizing that that's the intention was to go out and do my wellness practices or doing my grounding, but I would go outside and me and my son would put our bare feet on the earth, and it's like, oh, that's quite a cool way for him to experience life. Like, go put your feet in the dirt on the grass and um, feel that connection. And I think like there's just so much noise out there. I don't know if it's just my algorithm because it's what I what I look up as well on the nervous system regulation, on the healing and everything like that, that it can get really overcomplicated.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like my my whole mantra at the moment is simplify, simplify, just getting back to basics rather than trying to tick off 100 different things in order to then reach that identity. How we kind of like bring that back to what we began talking about. It's getting back to, okay, well, what is actually helping me in this moment to be in this moment? Like, is it taking me further away or is it actually bringing me here now?
Mm-hmm.
And another kind of journey that I encourage clients and community to go through is that inner child healing. So, what would your biggest piece of advice be for someone who wants to start reparenting their inner child, but like literally just doesn't know where to begin?
Yeah. Can I add a little something to your grounding
Oh,
comment?
please do. Yeah.
I was going to say too, if we really think about, I love what you're saying. And if we think about ourselves as like full mind, body, spirit in an environment, like we're so interconnected with everything. When we really think about ourselves as those types of complex systems and not just like these isolated parts of, like you said, checking off boxes because I have to,
Mm.
like a machine, make sure I get this task done and this task done so that A plus B equals healthy. And I think there's such a different, people would, I think, overlook this so much, but it is a totally different experience to be walking and to be like, you know what I really feel like doing right now? Taking my shoes off. And then taking your shoes off and just like walking and enjoying your experience with your shoes off. Or even just like going outside and you forgot to wear your shoes and you're going to the end of your driveway or whatever it is, and so you're just like, oh, I'm walking on the ground because I forgot my shoes. That those types of experiences versus, oh, let me go ground for 5 minutes. Remove
Mm.
shoes, remove socks. Now I am grounding. 5 minutes has
Mm.
passed. Now I put like it's such a different experience to calculate something and to
Mm.
go about it in that way. And not that that's wrong. Like that's still better than nothing. But
Mhm.
it's tricky. I think about it a lot about how we're trying to integrate nature back into our daily lives, but the way that we're doing it is kind of hilarious because it's
Yeah.
so. I was I was actually last week. I was in Houston, Texas, with my boyfriend, and we were in this building. I'd never seen anything like it before. It was a building where there was a bunch of restaurants downstairs, and then upstairs was all office buildings. But there was also a plant shop in the middle of the place. Like I'd never seen this combo of things before. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because I was like the only thing more robotic than than a bunch of offices without any nature in them is offices that have nature purposely added into them with plants. And
Yeah.
like I would think that I would see that and be like, amazing. They're adding nature, they're adding trees, a bush here, a bush there, like,
Mm.
you know, a little hanging plant, a philodendron out of like the corner. I was like, no, that actually looks so much more freaky because we're trying so
Out
hard.
of place.
Yeah. It's like we're trying so hard to get our nature back into the daily routine, but
Mm.
it's almost like we're still not getting it. Like we're still not
Mhm.
getting that we're disconnected in the first place and that we can't just be disconnected and then add some supplementary things in, but that we actually need connection, like actual
Mhm.
connection. So I'm not hating on them adding plants. I think that's awesome, but it freaked me out. I was like, what is going on in this society?
When you look at it like that, it's like that's wrong.
Yeah, yeah. But over to the inner child topic.
Mm.
You asked like how can people start doing that work, or what exactly was the question?
Yeah. So basically, just like for someone who's fresh into what even is inner child healing, like where would they start if they wanted to start reparenting,
Hmm.
basically?
Yeah, I love that question. I think I'm gonna use a tool here, specific
Okay.
tool. I think a really helpful, useful tool could be asking yourself what type of person or presence feels really safe for you. For me, it's like a grandmother.
Mm.
So it's not a specific grandmother of mine, but to me, just like grandmother energy is very safe.
Mm.
Grandmothers tend to be very unconditionally loving in the stereotypical sense, but
Yeah.
unconditionally loving, warm, nurturing, and they have this ability to be so present with you because they're in a phase of their life where they're not, you know, rushing around trying to make it happen, trying to
Mm.
make life hurry up. They're just kind of like, I'm here, I'm chill, I know what matters to me, and I'm going to take care of it. And that's it.
Mm.
And so picking whatever caricature is feels really safe to you and seeing if you can kind of become that for yourself in certain settings. So, for example, this can sound really silly to people who haven't done like inner child work or parts work or anything like that. So it might sound a little out there, but I was noticing that I was in a pattern of whenever I would come home, I would just like throw my stuff and take no time to like nicely put my bag away and like put my shoes away nicely and sip some water, make sure I'm not dehydrated. Like I just was always having this urgency when I came in the house
Mhm.
and I would toss my stuff everywhere. And so I was like, who would really take care of me in a way that they would make sure that I don't do that. And I was like a grandmother. She'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to hang up your coat. I'm going to make sure you ate. I'm going to make sure you drink water. And
Mm.
so every time I would walk in the house, I would just kind of let grandmother take over for myself. And I'd be like, hey, you can rest. You go rest. I'm going to put away your coat. I'm going to put your shoes down. I'm going to clear up the space for you so that you don't have to worry about it being messy. And you can just relax. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to rush anything. You don't have to take care of it. I'm going to take care of it for you, even though this is me.
Yeah,
Both are,
yeah.
both are me. But I'm going to take care of it for you. And it just worked so well for me. I loved being able to kind of channel a different part of myself that I wasn't used to being able to be for myself. I never was able to do that for myself and be there for me, for myself in that way. But just kind of othering that part of myself and treating myself as if I was this other person really helped me with learning how to care for myself and slow down when I walked in the house. So creating that safe presence for yourself, picking kind of a certain environment or situation where you feel like you could use a little extra support, and talking to another part of yourself that kind of does just want to like rest or take a break or not just be forced or controlled into things. I think that can be a really nice tool for starting to change your actions and your patterns.
I love that. I'm going to start using that. Going to channel the archetype of grandmother, especially in the mornings getting the children ready. Like,
Yeah,
you take them all off, I'll do the dishes, then
it,
I'll put their shoes on. Like, there's no rush. But also, I say set my alarm, but my children are my alarm at like 5:30 a.m. But just having that shift in perspective, I've never heard it explained that way. So, yeah,
yeah.
really
It's
helpful.
it's so. Have you done like internal family systems and that type of work? Or-
I've started touching on it, and I was actually just going to ask you next to just try and explain that a little bit for our listeners, that
Yeah,
what the AFS
it's
goes into.
it's like if you've kind of dived into that work, this stuff does make sense, even though I don't think it ever stops being crazy. It's just
Mm,
so crazy how many fragmented parts of ourselves there are, and
mm,
how important that is for our survival and getting through life. But it's what always blows my mind is how well it works. Like this
mm,
grandmother energy coming in, because one of the things that I'm always blown away by is that I will tell myself to rest. I'm like, you can go sit on the couch and just relax. You don't have to think about anything. I will do it for you. I will take care of it. You just relax. I'll be here. If you need anything, I'll be here for you. And I'll go the
mm.
extra mile. I'll check in with myself. I'll be like, you need anything? Some water, some snacks. And then I wait for my response.
Yeah.
And it works so well. And
Mm,
it's you can feel how you're in a different body, you're in a different part of yourself when you're doing it, because typically, and I'm sure so many people can relate to this, but it's so rare that I would actually wash the dishes in like a like, you know, wash washing a dish. Like
mm.
I'm washing a dish. No, it has to be like, gotta get the dishes done. Gotta just like
Gotta get
move
clean.
on to the next thing. Yeah, like I don't want to be doing this, but now I have to do it urgently and kind of like scrub, and my back would get really tense and my whole body would just feel like achy just from being over the sink doing the dishes. But grandmother does not operate that way. Grandmother loves doing some dishes because she loves taking care of me. She loves
Mm,
just sitting there taking her time. I'll put like a show on in the background. She's taking her time with the dishes. She loves these dishes. She cherishes these dishes. She has no reason to rush, no reason to be urgent. She takes her time. And
mm,
somehow, every single time I've used that, and I still use grandmother, every time I've used that approach, when I finish the dishes, I feel refreshed and nourished, instead of me finishing it and then being like, oh my God, like I finally can relax now.
mm. You're actually like carrying yourself through the process where
Yeah.
again you're grounding into the present moment.
Yeah.
But from that archetype, yeah, yeah. And so there's lots of different parts of us within the internal family system. I mean, we don't have to go into too much depth with that, but did you just want to like kind of touch on the different parts and how they can all play a role in not only maybe what's controlling our reactions and our triggers in that kind of sense?
Hmm. So, what do you mean by controlling our reactions and our triggers? Like how the
So,
parts do that?
yeah, so like if you have a different part of you that's like, say, the firefighter, or they're like creating this urgency where it's like not necessarily like the grandmother part, but like a part that we may not accept as such. And then they kind of come in and like pretty much what you're saying with the dishes, like if you're like tensed up, and so like how you there's different parts. So like just explaining for our listeners what the different parts could be.
Yeah, of course. So, there is, through the lens of internal family systems, there is our capital S self, which is the aspect of ourself that has always been, just is. It is us, it is life, it is our consciousness. It is consciousness and it never changes. It just is as it is. But because we're human beings who have survival patterns, we have nervous systems, and we are living life on Earth, we have different parts of ourselves that are here to protect us in different ways. And so when we're young, we begin to fragment. So, like, we can imagine ourselves as like this baby who's just kind of pure. And sometimes I question, like, are we already fragmented when we come into this life, or does this happen just through nurture? And I don't really know. Maybe there is an objective answer to that, but I think it's kind of just explorative. But as a baby, we're just kind of pure. Like, we haven't experienced disconnections in relationships. We haven't experienced ruptures in relationships. We're just new to this whole experience of life. But as we go through life and we experience things like hurt and emotional disconnection, trauma, all these different things, we fragment in order to protect ourselves. So a part of you as a child, if you, for example, are in your house and you're not getting the attention that you need from a caregiver, then you might start to meet a need of your own by yourself. So that might be a part of you fragmenting and learning that, okay, I don't get my needs met by other people. So I have learned that I need to just kind of go within myself and meet that need on my own. But we might not always do that in the best way. So it might be in a way that we carry with us throughout the rest of our lives. And to unlearn it is oftentimes really hard because that part is self-protective, and because it doesn't just go away on its own just because you said, oh, I don't want that there anymore. It has to learn that you are safe enough and that you are okay to be able to let that part play a different role in your life. So with the example of a child learning to meet their own needs, they might start to learn, okay, well, I don't really go outside of myself to get connection. I don't really do that. So I don't try to go up to my mom and hug her, or my dad and hug him. Instead, I just kind of spend a little bit more time by myself. I'm not really sure exactly how to express my needs, so I don't really express them. I haven't learned that. I'm taking a really extreme example just from the parent not not giving attention. It's not always this extreme for anybody listening, but it might be something super subtle. But um, it could turn into like, oh, I don't get my needs met outside of myself. So instead, I'm quiet. I don't try to socialize with other people. I'm not interested in socializing with other people because I've learned that they don't meet my needs. So I have this more, kind of antisocial way of being in the world. But that antisocial way of being is a part of us that is protecting us from rejection or not getting our needs met in some way. So when you start to dive into parts work, you might start to learn that there are parts of you that are exiled, for example, a part of you that has been totally shamed and left in the dark because it just didn't trust, it didn't see with evidence in the real world that it could be accepted and loved and supported. And we have, it is raining so loud where I am. So it's, I'm like now having to yell over the rain. But um, you know, so there's these different parts. I won't go super deep into IFS. And to be honest, in my work, I don't even use the terms of like exiles and managers and firefighters and all that kind of stuff. I kind of just talk about parts in whatever way
Mm.
my client wants to talk about them instead of having
Yeah.
them label everything extensively. Because sometimes then it can feel like, oh, I need to do this right. I need to label it right. I have to learn it.
Yeah, I need to get this name for this right part of myself, and then yeah, I can see that could become a bit more overwhelming.
Yeah, because then it's like, oh wait, is this an exile or is this? Oh wait, what is this? And then it's like
Mm.
that doesn't matter as much as your experience and what you're feeling.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And because you do other parts, like within when you work with clients, you do a little bit of psychology and neurobiology, and then we've covered like the IFS. But how do those kind of the blend of approaches that you use? How does that really support um, the transformation that everyone's coming to you for?
yeah. I think it it really depends on the person and the session because I've learned from my experience that I think one of the best ways to truly support other people and ourselves is to learn everything. Like learn everything that you can, get your hands on every little bit of knowledge that you naturally gravitate towards, and even the things that you don't, learn it all, and then forget it all, and just truly be with the person that's right in front of you. And whatever needs to come up will, if you've truly learned it and you've truly integrated it into your experience and your toolbox of life and all of that stuff. It's like learn it all, forget it all, and then be truly with the person that is right there, and it will come up as it needs to come up because not everybody needs the same thing, not everybody needs the same prescription. And I've felt in my own life that when things are taught in too structured of a way or too tailored, then sometimes it can feel like more of a I need to become more intellectually self-aware without actually having these deeper shifts. And then like
Mm,
the self-awareness just keeps growing and growing and growing, but you're still in the same place. So all of these things show up in sessions with all of my clients at different times in different ways, but I don't have this approach that's like today we're going to focus on nervous system regulation and tomorrow we're going to focus on IFS. It's all the same thing, you know, in some way or another.
mm. It's just whatever intuitively comes up for that person at the time.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, as you say, if like you're over structuring it, then the person on the other side is going to be like, "Am I doing it right?" Rather than just kind of the biggest transformation comes from being in the present and just allowing that to show up. But also, like from my experience, everything that I use is something that I've learnt for my own healing journey. So
Yeah.
and then you can kind of relate on a different level when you've been through those experiences yourself as well. Not that you're going to experience everything that your client has, but there's going to be some form of kind of
Yes.
like yeah,
Yeah.
knowing, understanding.
And having that experience where you're teaching things that you have experienced yourself, but you're
Mm.
also not projecting your experience onto them and seeing them just through the lens of yourself and your own experiences. Like when that, because I think, especially having gone through like counseling grad school, I think those are two of the things to balance that can be tough. It's like,
Mm.
well, you don't want to project, you don't want to make what they're going through about you and what you've been through, and then be like, oh, this is what's going to happen, because that happens to people. But at the same time, you also don't want to be teaching things that you haven't actually been able to experience yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And not like we have to go through every single thing that our clients have gone through, but to just speak from a place that is based in embodied truth, and not just, oh, I read this in a book, so now I'm going to recite it at you. That's, even if it's not intellectually obvious, like, people can feel that. People can
Mm-hmm.
feel that there's like some weird superiority thing going on because you apparently know something that you haven't actually experienced, but you're telling me, even though, do you even know what my real experience is?
But the
So,
book says so, so
yeah, yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share? I feel like we've covered so much.
No. It's like,
Exhausted all your. What about where people can find you, how they can work with you? Yeah, well, we'll send them your way.
yeah, you can find me on Instagram or TikTok. I'm really mostly on Instagram at mindbodynina. My website is humansunplugged.com. I also have a podcast, Humans Unplugged. But when you go to my Instagram bio, you can just click my link. My website's there, coaching services are there, my community is there. You can join from there if you're interested in the community, where we do self-healing, personal development, a space to really just be able to talk about it all and work through it all together. And yeah, that's the stuff.
Amazing. Yeah, you are doing amazing things in the world, and I think it's, yeah, really valuable to have these conversations and to be able to share it with anybody who comes across it. Who knows?
Definitely.
Yeah. So I really appreciate your time today, Nina, and I won't keep you too long. I know we're on completely different time scales at the moment. I'm over in New Zealand and here in the US, so we'll leave you for your evening now. But yeah, I just really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and experiences with our listeners.
Of course. Thank you for having me. And it's funny because you were talking earlier about how you got Starlink.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool because you're in New Zealand and I'm in Austin, Texas. And Elon Musk lives here in Austin. And I think it's just cool how, like, these things, or maybe it's terrifying, I don't know. But
Yeah, yeah.
he is here and he's based here, but you in New Zealand are over there, like, experiencing Starlink. Like, the world has just become so connected in every way. It's insane.
It is. I remember seeing the satellites up in the sky. I'm like, I would never get one of those. But also, if it helps me with my podcasts.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Oh,
bittersweet.
yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Nina.
Thank you, Sarah.